Hi there, come on in. It is September 21st, the year 2000. You're watching The Practical Sportsman. I'm Fred Trost. We got a real good response to last week's show on squirrel hunting, so we're gonna do the same type of show this week, except we're gonna up the ante on the quarry. We're going after bears. We're gonna go through the same routine, talk about how and why you bear hunt, skinning the bear, and cooking it. Plus, we're gonna talk about those Canadian firearm regulations. Stay tuned.
Dude, come on, get your gun right now. Dude, if you could get your gun, I'd appreciate it.
How dangerous are black bears to hunt? Well, most of the time, it's not a life-threatening activity, but there are exceptions. One is if you startle a sow bear with her cubs. Mother bears are aggressive around their cubs because father bears, the boars, don't share in raising the family. If a big boar comes across a small, unattended cub, he's likely to kill it and eat it. Mama bears quickly attack any other bear or any person that comes too close. The worst nightmare of a hunter is to find himself between a bear cub and its mother. Avoid that at all costs. A second safety hazard is if you surprise a bear that's feeding or guarding its food cache, which might be an animal carcass or even a bait pile that the bear wants to keep for itself. Now, while attacks from protective black bears usually aren't fatal, the wounds can be serious. The third and most dangerous situation is if a predatory black bear, one that's hungry and will kill and eat anything it can, comes across you and decides you'd make a good meal. Tom Walter was on a spring fishing trip in Ontario a few years ago. One evening he went for a walk away from camp by himself with his video camera. A large black bear came right up to Tom, backed him through the woods and into a pond. Now, looking at the footage, there's little doubt that this was a predatory black bear that was stalking Tom, trying to find an opportunity to knock him down and kill him. The bear would have drug him off into the brush and fed on him for a few days. Needless to say, Tom Walter wasn't terribly comfortable with that idea.
Get out of here!
I'm gonna drown.
No! Get out of here, bear!
This footage was on eyewitness video. It gave many viewers the goosebumps, and it gave Tom Walter the scare of his life, and with good reason.
Get out of here!
You know, it is scary when a wild animal is not afraid of you. That usually means some sort of trouble is up. Well, we had an experience like that when I was bear hunting. This was back in 1995. I was up in Ontario, Frontier Lodge. John Middleton and his wife Betty own Frontier Lodge. It goes back to Rawhide Lake as well. But at that time, spring bear hunting was allowed, and after having a great lunch that Betty prepared, our fun began. We didn't see anything for 2 days. John Middleton suggested at lunchtime that we scout another bait.
Did it get her?
Yeah, you set the bait all right.
I stayed back at the truck while John Middleton, who had been running several baits for the past couple of weeks, checked this bait with John Ford. The bait bag John had set out the day before had been ripped off the tree, and to his complete surprise, the bear was a few yards away munching on the beef scraps, and it stayed there watching the two humans. Now that's not normal behavior.
Something laying over here, this maybe. Right behind the rock.
You there?
Yeah, see, right behind that rock. Just move this way a little bit. Take a look.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Good size.
Usually, a black bear gives wide berth to another adult bear or another human that comes nearby, especially two humans. This bear is 30 miles from the closest town, way out in the boondocks, and there's no reason, no logical reason, that this bear doesn't move off out of sight. We don't see any cubs around, which is our first concern. This bear is either belligerent or predatory. John Middleton didn't care for either option.
That bear's still standing up in there.
So he was feeding at the bait?
He must have heard us coming and went down in the hole over there. And when I walked up here, he took off running up past the rock. And he's standing up in the side hill. I can see him here yet from here.
He's a good sized one, isn't he?
He's a big bear, that one. sure tore up things up here. He tore that wire right down.
Although he didn't appear rattled, John rarely took his eyes off that bear. He was concerned that after finishing the meat scraps, the Bruin might charge back. So John and John left right away.
Okay, I guess we can't talk too loud, but maybe that bear doesn't care.
Possibility. Yeah,
Last time we came up here, put the bait, this was a couple hours ago, there was the bear.
that's right.
Now I'm coming back with a gun, with a scope, with a faint heart. We don't know if we're going to pop over. You got the bait, that's
I got
good.
some more bait to bring him on.
Because the concern here is that this bear didn't run when we went up there.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And you expect a bear to run. Why this bear wouldn't run is a concern.
I'm concerned because he knows who I am, but he didn't seem to be upset over you fellas being around here with us.
So this is a bear that maybe is destined to cause problems in this area
He will,
for
no
the few
doubt.
people that have camps around here.
No doubt about it. Yeah. He's bold already.
Mm-hmm.
A bold bear is a bad bear.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen videos, Tom Walter's video of that bear in Ontario at this time of year, stalking him.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
Hey, it'd make a
doesn't
great video,
it?
wouldn't it?
It gets interesting, doesn't it?
Well, so we'll walk up over the hill. I guess you'll leave the camera running, John?
Sure.
We'll see what happens.
Sometimes a bear will guard its food cache, so John Ford and I approached cautiously. This element of danger, for some of us, is a part of the lure of bear hunting.
Hasn't touched the bait. Apparently, it looks like the bait's still in there, doesn't it to you, John?
Yeah. Yeah, bait's still there.
Doesn't look like he's touched the bait, does it?
No.
Well, maybe he'll be back then. Well, last time we saw him, he was right up here, which is where we're going to sit. Brilliant, huh? It's a couple trails that are coming through here. It's one that comes from the swamp here, one that comes this way, another one that comes this direction. Of course, the bear could also come from behind where you are, where John is with the camera right now. This bait is about 30 paces from the large rock that we're going to hide behind. Now, I'm not sure how much we have to, stay so totally hidden. This bear is wise to people being here, has already seen us. In fact, look at this. We're going to be sitting here 5 feet away from this pile of fresh bear droppings. I'm not doing this just for fun, folks. I'm trying to find what it's been eating. Looks like it's been eating grass. I don't see any leaves in here, but of course it's pretty well processed. Oh, they're inside here. There's an aspen leaf inside. And grasses primarily. So, there we go. We'll just be 5 feet away from this, waiting for the bear to return. One spooky thing here is that about 50 years ago, there was a burn-off in the area, and there's black stumps throughout. That, it looks like a lot of bears are watching us. That'll be really interesting as it gets towards dark. So we're gonna sit here. I'll sit here on this rock. John will be, you guys will be right over my shoulder. We're gonna wait for hours. We've already put about a dozen hours or so into waiting for bears. Maybe 15, we're gonna put in a few more.
This was our fourth afternoon sitting in the woods for 4 or 5 hours. We didn't expect the bear until close till dark. And with the warm sun beaming down, hey, I couldn't stay awake. In fact, I got in some pretty good Z's. A few minutes later, John Ford heard the bear downwind where it caught our scent and was coming our way. John woke me up.
He's right behind us. Dude, if you could get your gun, I'd appreciate it. No.
us. You, get your gun right now. Dude, come on, get your gun right now. Come up in front of me. Right now.
That's that.
Did you get him?
He didn't move. Didn't move. He's laying right over the log. I thought that was exciting.
Exciting?
Yes. You seemed a little nervous.
He started running down when he saw us.
That's why I shot right there. I thought that he stopped. Okay, well, he's flopping right here. Look at it.
You want to just wait here for a second?
Yeah, this is not the part that is my favorite part of hunting, I tell you, but... I mean, he's dead. He's just twitching. Well, this is right where you didn't want him. This cartridge, this gun, this scope, that's a lifesaver. I never would have seen that with open sights. He's just black. Well, you know, it's not like a deer. This is not like a deer. You don't want to... You just want to make sure they're totally expired. You don't want any reaction, any... You know, sometimes they can whip around and kick you or bite you.
Right.
And, what's that?
That's it, right.
You know, those claws and everything else.
Well, that's why I was getting excited. I didn't think you could tell how close he was to us.
Oh, yeah, I could tell. I just wanted to make sure it was a clear, clean shot. Yeah, when they're still twitching like this, he's not moving. I mean, I made a shoulder shot right in the front, and he's... You know, if it was a deer, you'd go up and you'd pull it and move it, but I don't want to.
The reflexes of the dead bear finally stopped, and I wasn't so concerned about touching it at that point. This all happened an hour or two earlier than any of us had predicted. But with bears, what good are predictions anyway?
Hey, I'm glad I got him at this time of night because I can get back and get him skinned and all that while it's still light.
So you might be asking yourself, as I often do when I'm hunting, what's the point? Why do this? With bear hunting, it's a combination of challenge, excitement, exercise, being outdoors, getting a bear rug, and getting some excellent wild meat.
Yep. Oh, boy.
Here's how you take care of a bear the right way. Don't hang it even overnight. When the temperature is in the 60s and 70s, it spoils within hours. Taking the hide off right away is easy while the animal is still warm, and the fat can be peeled away quickly. My goal was to have this meat in the freezer within 3 hours after the bear was down, and I made it. Handled this way, bear meat is excellent.
Switched over to the fillet knife here to bone the meat out. So I'm cutting over the back right now and getting the loin. This is the loin right in here.
Well, believe it or not, any of the venison recipes in our Practical Sportsman cookbook are fine with bear meat. Stir-fry venison would be great. Margaret Hart from Gloss Bay, Nova Scotia sent us this one. Up there, they probably use this with moose or caribou. Well, whatever wild meat you use, make sure you trim all the fat off, and it'll be terrific. Marinate strips of venison or bear in soy sauce, water, oyster flavor sauce, a pinch of ginger, garlic powder, pepper, and a teaspoon of white sugar. Now, you marinate that overnight in the refrigerator, then get your vegetables cut up. Carrots, onions, celery, green and red peppers, water chestnuts, pineapple, tomatoes, mushrooms. You know this stir-fry stuff. Thicken this with cornstarch just before it's all stir-fried. Serve over bean sprouts or rice. That's the way to serve venison or bear if you don't want anybody to know what it is. Stir-fry venison. You can't go wrong. I've gotten to become a big fan of stir-frying meat. I mean, almost any meat, but game meat as well. It just tastes great that way, and you really don't detect a wild taste if you trim it up right. There have been some changes there. Well, unfortunately, at Frontier Lodge since 1995. A couple years ago, John Middleton unexpectedly and suddenly passed away. He was just such a super guy. He and Betty ran Frontier Lodge. Betty still runs it today, as I've been told, and last I knew she had it up for sale. But we miss John and wish the best to Betty. The Ontario government has also made some significant changes since 1995. They had a big brouhaha over eliminating the spring bear season. Whose idea was that? The anti-hunters in Canada, who seem to have quite a grip on the Ontario government, at least. So they've eliminated the spring bear season. And I said at the time, there's no point in Michigan hunters or Michigan residents complaining to the Canadian government. I mean, their own outfitters and guides and hunters in Canada couldn't change their minds. Far be it from us to have any effect on that. Now, that didn't just stop with the anti-hunters. The anti-gun people across Canada got together and persuaded the Canadian government nationally to pass a new Firearms Act. Now, this act is extremely restrictive, much more so than anything we've seen in this country, and it's kind of spooky that that's happening right across the border. Now, the gist of the new Canadian Firearms Act is that all Canadian gun owners by 2001 must have a firearms license in order to acquire or possess a long gun. You see, handguns are already banned for the most part. So the government is now working on shotguns and rifles. Now, this permit involves a background check for the Canadian citizens, declaring and registering each firearm they own, paying $60 for the possession license and $18 for each gun. And if a Canadian citizen wants to buy a firearm, has to buy a separate $60 license, which is good for 5 years. Now, what about non-residents like us, who oftentimes like to go to Canada to hunt bear, hunt ducks, hunt caribou, or maybe just target shoot? Well, this Canadian Firearms Act covers us too in the same restrictive way, which requires a $50 possession license in order to bring a gun into Canada. Now, that's good for 1 year, no handguns. It's actually good for only 30 days because you apply for this permit in advance. It involves a background check by the Canadian government on your suitability to be around guns. You must declare your gun when you bring it to the border. You can't sell it or leave it in Canada. And you better get back home with that gun within 30 days or else get one 30-day extension on the possession permit. Now, if you decide not to take a gun to Canada and go through that hassle, you're just going to borrow one that a Canadian citizen owns, what's involved there? Well, once again, you must apply in advance for a non-resident's 60-day possession license. And do this well in advance of your trip so they can run a background check. Now, this license costs $30, and it entitles you to borrow an ordinary registered rifle or shotgun from a licensed Canadian citizen during that 60-day period. Now, there's a lot more to this Canadian Firearms Act than I just reiterated. I just hit a few basic points on it. I got a ton of information off the Canadian website. An awful lot of information here, a lot of details, a lot of regulations and restrictions. They're coming out with a list of all the guns that are banned, and I think you can expect that list to increase. You can look this up on the web or call the toll-free number, and the Canadian government will send you copies of the act and information on what you have to do to comply. Now, I might mention the province of Alberta is suing the Canadian government on this, saying that it infringes on the rights of Canadian citizens. But of course, they don't have a constitution like we have. They don't have a Second Amendment. We have a different deal here in this country. But a lot of people are concerned, and I read this on the web, civil libertarians are concerned with when restrictive things like that happen right across the border, tends to give legislators in this country and congressmen who are anti-gun ideas on how to hammer away at the Second Amendment. Well, what are we going to do about that? I guess it's an individual thing. You have to size it up yourself if you want to comply with the Canadian regulations. I'm not sure. I'm still mulling it over whether it's worth it to me to spend that money and go through that scrutiny and participate in that system just to hunt in Canada. While I'm mulling that over, I did decide to take some action. I mean, for 50 bucks, I went and got a money order for 50 bucks, and by the time you see this show, it will have been sent in. Now, what you do is up to you, but you can at least see where I stand. Now, because of the volatility of the gun issue, let me make something perfectly clear right now. What I just presented to you was for your information. I'm not trying to jam my opinions or my attitudes down anybody's throat. I mean, for crying out loud, you know where I stand on these issues. But the important thing is, where do you stand? And do you have enough information to make decisions and have discussions tomorrow around your neighborhood when the subject comes up of gun regulation? I mean, we have some things going on in this state that we need to talk about too. But you need that information. What I say on this show does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the television stations, public TV, the underwriters, the sponsors, whoever. I'm just trying to give you information you need to sort out these very pertinent issues, especially when they affect the activities that we think are wholesome, positive recreational activities. Now, speaking of being aware of what's going on, last week I mentioned that on September 15th, the season opened for squirrel, rabbit, grouse, and woodcock. Whoops, not so. A viewer pointed out that woodcock is federally regulated. I mean, I knew that, but I forgot it. And even though we hunt them with grouse, it's controlled separately, and the season opens on this Saturday, the 23rd. Now, in commemoration of the woodcock opener, we will go woodcock hunting on next week's show. I'm going to show you a dynamite recipe for woodcock, unbelievably good. I think we'll have time to see how Tim Hayes puts a full bear mount together. The modern process is very interesting. Mike Stewart will explain a new shotgun game that's being introduced at Orchard Hill and Bark River just west of Escanaba. Now, I'm going to be up there then, but I had to explain to Mike, I mean, on Saturday the 30th, come on, I'm already booked for that day. Ah, come on, Mike, even if you put them in broth, they'd be pretty crunchy. Here's an old target, clay target that I have here at the museum. The clay target collection, I mentioned on last week's show, I collect pheasant things. I want to thank Ramona, Beth, and Leroy Stambaugh from Sunfield. Sent me this Jim Beam decanter. Really cool, goes back to 1961. We'll learn more about this, plus, an arrowhead collection we have on loan here, a pinfire pistol, lots of things to do at the museum. I'm going to be here on Saturday at the museum. Tomorrow I'm going perch fishing on the Captain Nichols. Sunday, probably squirrel hunting, but make sure you get out and have fun outdoors. That's what it's all about. See you next week. Now, looking at the footage, there's little doubt that this was a predatory black bear that was stalking Tom, trying to find an opportunity to knock him down and kill him. The bear would have drug him off into the brush and fed on him for a few days. Needless to say, Tom Walter wasn't terribly comfortable with that idea.
Get out of here!
I'm gonna drown.
No! Get out of here, bear!
This footage was on eyewitness video. It gave many viewers the goosebumps, and it gave Tom Walter the scare of his life, and with good reason.
Get out of here!